Hi, my name is Bill Wiese. I'm the author of the book 23 Minutes in Hell, and thanks for watching. You know, there are many ways mentioned in the Bible how a person can attain wisdom. There are also some simple attitudes and ways of speaking that we can apply this wisdom and receive a positive outcome. Now, an example of possessing wisdom would be in knowing when, what, and how to answer a matter. If what you say is delivered with a caring attitude instead of a haughty, corrective attitude, it will be much more readily accepted. Now also, the timing of when something is said is crucial. Proverbs 25:11 says, "A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in pitchers of silver." Proverbs 29:11 says, "A fool utters all his mind." So talking less and listening more is always smart. Then Ecclesiastes 8:5 says, "A wise man's heart discerns both time and judgment." So holding back our tongue usually, again, is wisdom. Now, waiting and being patient for the right moment will be received much more readily. You know, this next story reveals the wisdom of God. In Daniel 1, Daniel and his 3 friends were told to eat the king's food in order to fatten themselves up before their appearance with the king. Well, since they had been in prison, they would, of course, not have been eating too well. Now, the prince of the eunuchs was required to be sure that they were, in fact, fattened up, or he would lose his head. However, Daniel didn't want to defile himself with the king's food and purposed himself not to eat it. Now, in the Old Testament, God instructed His people what to eat and what not to eat. Some foods were considered unclean and were forbidden by God. Now, the heathen king would have eaten those types of food. Well, Daniel didn't want to violate God's laws, but also didn't want to disobey the king's command and lose his head, along with the prince in charge over him. So Daniel decided to ask if he could eat only vegetables. He had to ask with wisdom, as the man would normally say, "Not even a possibility." Daniel said to the prince, "Prove thy servant, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us vegetables to eat and water to drink." Now, 2 points I want to make. First of all, he asked for only a 10-day trial run, which would still leave enough time for the king's food to be given if Daniel's way of eating only vegetables didn't work. Now, this would have been in the mind of the prince since he didn't want to lose his head. Now, Daniel showed consideration of him by asking for only the 10 days. The prince had 3 years to fatten them up. So Daniel also had to have been in a favorable position with the prince of the eunuchs to even ask in the first place, which he was. Now, this was due to him having an excellent spirit, as it says in Daniel 5:12 and verse 14 and chapter 6, verse 3. So now the second thing to notice in Daniel's asking is that he said, "I beseech thee." Now, beseech means please or I beg you. So the attitude was not insistent in any way, but instead humble. You know, all through the Bible, the word beseech is used by those with a humble attitude. Daniel asked the Lord and said, "I beseech thee," and that's in Daniel 9:16. Paul said in 2 Corinthians 10:1, "Now I, Paul, myself beseech you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ, who is presence and base among you." Now, Daniel asked with wisdom, and he was granted his request. Now, consideration of others and a humble attitude is showing wisdom. Proverbs 12:14 says, "A man shall be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth." Proverbs 15:1 and 2 says, "A soft answer turns away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. The tongue of the wise use knowledge aright." Then Proverbs 19:22 says, "Kindness makes a man attractive." Now, these are some simple but profound ways that we can display wisdom in our lives and achieve a positive result.